Ladies and gentlemen, this week on Wrestling with the Business, we've got results from Backlash. We've got Saudi Arabia in the news again. And WWE is letting more people go. But we'll get all into it this week on Wrestling with Business. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Wrestling with the Business. We are here with you, as always, Jeremy, Matt, Dan, back together again. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Our main event tonight dealing with Saudi Arabia, and they're trying to get more holdings on WWE, I guess you could say. Trying to get the big shows out there. We'll discuss that. We got all the chaos happening in AEW. You're actually starting to get interested in AEW, Dan.
It's bringing some interest.
Let's start out real quick. First, like, comment, share, subscribe. Be sure to do all that. Get all the notifications so you know when all of our videos drop.
Guys, you have to follow. I got in another Twitter fight this week, so
Ooh.
not as tasty as the last one. But
Again?
I mean, when you're not fighting with people on Twitter, you're doing it wrong. So
It's true.
No ring the bell this week. Well, we'll see at the end of the show. Something might brew towards the end here, but no falls count this week. But Gauntlet, you guys are in the lead here. Tie-in again this week.
the stone that was once rejected has become the cornerstone. Matt, what happened, man?
I'm just giving you guys a chance.
Dan
that's
and I
all.
are taking over.
Well, one could cry foul. If I did win last week, I don't know why, even though I wasn't here, why I wasn't picking the topic in the first place.
Because you weren't here.
I know,
you weren't
but
here.
still.
You answered your own question.
I had something that came up. It's something that I can't control.
We have technology now. You can get on the phone, get on the
I could've called
FaceTimes.
That would have been even worse.
I could have called it in.
Just be a voice.
But let's talk about what Dan didn't get involved in, and that's Backlash this week. Did not get in your picks that we did last week, but you saw the show, right?
Was there any surprises?
No. I think
no.
yeah.
I rest my case.
It was hopefully the worst show of the year.
One surprise that did happen, which I'm a little happy about, debut of Tongaloa, the tag team partner of Tama Tonga, which I think I brought up a week or two ago.
That was getting leaked, yeah.
Leaked? I didn't hear any leaks about that.
I heard about Gorillas of Destiny. I heard
me?
people. No, not from you, but around the IWC, I heard whispers of Gorillas of Destiny.
Well, the only rumors I heard was Jacob Fatu, the other soon-to-be possibly Bloodline
too.
member. He
Yep.
had signed a month or so ago, so that was the expected debut. But, yeah, I didn't hear anything about this. But it's nice to see GOD. Hopefully they'll get a nice run in WWE, better than, say, like the Good Brothers or some other Japan tag team. But
I mean, when you're linked to the Bloodline, you're almost guaranteed a good spot. So this is a great way to fill the non-Rock, Roman Reigns period.
Yep. So all our picks we made were 100% on. What'd you think of the matches overall? I've been hearing Jade Cargill's been getting some criticism for some reason. Like she didn't do so hot.
I thought her performance was okay. A lot of people digging her physique. I mean, that really distinguishes her. The match itself, I mean, she showed a lot. I mean, they've been selling Bianca Belair as the power forward, as it were, of the WWE, and then Jade Cargill comes in, teams with her, and just manhandles every other woman in the ring. So I think that whole Bianca Belair is a real strong girl thing might be totally over at this point. But I haven't seen a lot of criticism.
Her reception's
of her.
been pretty well to the crowd and the fans.
This is only her third match, and now she's a champ.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do a lot of work, but, she got a big push in AEW and whatnot. I mean, it really doesn't surprise me that she's going to go, if someone's going to go straight to the mid-top, I guess, mid-card belt, it's going to be her. And, of course, she's doing it with a multi-time champion, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe they actually end up putting a tag team together. But both of them, we've talked about the Franken teams and stuff and how we don't really like that. But I have a feeling that the two of them are too big to have a tag team together. So they're going to be another Franken team, which means if they try to do a heel turn, everybody's going to be like, who gives a shit? Who cares? These people were never really a team to begin with.
Right.
This is, I mean,
And that's what they're going to do. They're going to try a heel turn. Probably.
My picks
Jade.
here would have been everyone that won. The only thing I might have done differently is I might have went with Asuka. I mean, retaining the women's tag, but I don't think so. I mean,
I talked Matt out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, all these are pretty easy. But looking at this card, this is a match and a pay-per-view that should have been in France because it wasn't going to sell out in the United States anywhere. I mean, I hate to be. That's one of those like France. It's selling out in France because they don't have a lot of events, and they can put together a card that, quite frankly, isn't going to market well and sell well here in the United. I mean, that's a boring card.
Manufactured scarcity.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would say if this was the old days, I wouldn't be paying $39.99 to watch this pay-per-view. I wouldn't be paying $10 to watch this pay-per-view. I mean, if I'm paying monthly for it, then I get it and I'm watching. But like, I would not pay to see that pay-per-view. There's nothing there. And in this world of we everything is so long term. Like Cody Rhodes isn't losing the belt after 1 month. Okay, same thing with Bayley. Same thing with Damian Priest. Like the bloodline's not gonna take a hit. Like this is such an easy, predictable pay-per-view that is only gonna sell in a market that's not here in the U.S. So
Yeah,
that's why it's in France. I mean, that's why
A crowd only acts like that when you've starved them for so
Right.
long that
Right.
they'll eat
Right.
shit and
Yeah.
think it's,
Let me
creme
ask
brulee.
about the crowd. They were kind of, I mean, I don't know what was wrong, if it was my feed or if it was the replay, how it was recorded, whatever. The audio sucked when I was watching the replay on Peacock, and I could not hear commentary, the ring announcers. I could hear them barely at all.
The crowd-
All I could hear was the crowd.
the crowd noise.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they probably didn't have
and it was getting annoying for
they
me.
probably didn't have their equipment tuned for a
Probably.
crowd that was that loud, and it might have effed it up. I know they fixed it in all the highlights and stuff. They adjusted everything,
Yeah.
but the crowd was insanely loud. It seems to me like there is some kind of a pitch going on. It's weird how like the fans are having to court WWE. That's something I'm sure we'll get to in the main event. But everyone around the world seems to be courting WWE for one reason or another, probably linked to TKO. But I mean, yeah, I guess that's our new reality. But overall, I mean, it was a C minus show.
I mean, it wasn't a
I wouldn't
bad
even give
show.
it that. I mean,
It wasn't a bad show. I mean, it just wasn't anything.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
if you're
out of
Cody,
the
you're a
ordinary.
Cody Rhodes fan, you're going there to watch it.
Right.
And this is a pay-per-view that's designed and set up to be an overseas pay-per-view to bring some top stars.
felt very astroturfed,
Right.
like with the opening match with Owens and Orton coming out. Oh, you guys want to break all the rules, okay? Now it's a no holds barred match. It was all just to get over with the crowd in the moment and stuff. So, yeah, it is what it was. I mean, very forgettable. That's the takeaway.
What's the next show now? Next month?
Is it Elimination Chamber?
No, it's
No.
King and Queen of the Ring.
Oh, that's
Oh.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, duh.
of course.
Yep.
End
Okay.
of May. So that's the thing. Like, you have 3 premium live events in like 6 weeks.
I'm counting AW. Yeah.
No. In mid-June, they're going back to
Oh, Bash in Berlin.
Bash in Berlin.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Which will be another style pay-per-view as this.
It should be the same thing. So it's all filler, and then the setup for SummerSlam, because SummerSlam will be beginning of August.
Which isn't a bad strategy. I mean, hey, we'll fill up some of these live pay-per-views overseas with cards that aren't going to change the storyline at all. But
You can get 38,000 fans to see Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia.
Yep.
So
All right. Let's go on to WWB in the news. Jared, why don't you bring us this week's headlines?
much more interesting week in news than we've had actually in the past. So there was a real question here. The Netflix agreement with WWE Raw didn't start until January. However, their agreement with Universal was supposed to expire, I think, October 1st. We weren't sure what was going to happen. Well, on the TKO earnings call this week, they announced that, NBC Universal's agreed to an extension through the end of the year. Lord only knows what the details of that are, but I think we all pretty much knew that was going to happen. I know you found something very interesting about the TKO call. I think specifically that WWE actually managed to out-earn UFC despite the fact that UFC 300 was in Q1. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, dude, it's even more impressive because WrestleMania wasn't in Q1.
No.
WrestleMania was in Q2. So despite the fact that they had their WrestleMania in Q1, WWE actually out-earned UFC in Q1.
So, I mean, two things. First off, I mean, I don't know why no one brought up this TV deal. I mean, NBC Universal is definitely getting a bargain here. I mean, this is a classic. You're looking at 10 to 12 weeks. Nobody wants a program for 10
probably
to
gave
12.
it to them for free or something.
I mean, nobody wants that. So let's be honest. NBC Universal is literally going to have Raw and SmackDown together for 10 to 12 weeks. They're definitely getting a bargain here for $25 million for Raw. And that's probably this is probably a goodwill. Hey, we need to keep the show on. WWE is pinned against the wall on this. Hey, we need you to sign it. They did it. They get a little bit of a bargain. Hey, you're a great partner with us between Peacock and SmackDown and your years with Raw. I mean, I'm sure they're willing to lend that favor to them. So that's interesting. And we found that out in the report. There wasn't any like announcements of it.
Nothing to celebrate about there.
But TKO came out with their Q1 reports, and as you just said, WrestleMania wasn't even in there. So total revenue for
it's Royal Rumble. Really, it's Royal Rumble versus UFC 300.
$629 million was TKO's earnings for Q1. That breaks down to $313 million for UFC, and then $316.7 for WWE. So WWE outscoring UFC by $3.7 million. UFC reported at the 300 gate of a total of $16.5 million, but they recorded a loss on the quarter of $249.5 million, which can be represented by the settlement they had for the antitrust for UFC.
Oh, okay.
In the amount of $335 million.
Yeah, so they just paid a bump
out. I mean, this goes back to what we've talked about in the show before. I think we've had an in-depth conversation and at least an opinion on it as to when this whole TKO deal came about, UFC had a valuation of, I think, 9-point-something billion, and UFC was 12.5 billion, a $3 billion higher evaluation than WWE. And I still just don't understand that. And these numbers continue to show that people, at least I don't understand it. WWE is reported more revenue than UFC. And Q2 is going to have WrestleMania. So when you're looking at two companies, I guess I just don't. Was WWE undersold just to get rid of it? Maybe. Vince just wanted it gone. I guess I just don't. You would think the rhetoric going out, the wording going out would be that UFC can learn from WWE, when instead it's kind of like, oh, we're going to take what we learned from UFC and give it to WWE. We're going to take our UFC people and bring them to WWE. Like, you guys have seen the articles that come out. It's always what UFC is giving to WWE and not what WWE is giving to UFC. And one could argue they have a loss this quarter because of UFC, not WWE. So
yeah, I mean, this whole agreement was basically put together by Vince.
Yeah,
so
to quick sell it and be done.
It's really hard to come up with an argument against Vince trying to get some kind of excess cover or something for something that he expected to happen. The board was very much on board, so to speak, with what he wanted to do, and that's why he got rushed. The Janelle Grant whole thing kind of came to fruition. It's interesting how all these are connected. But, I think, yeah, you're right. It's so much of this shit happens behind the scenes, behind the curtain. There's so many, for every one moving part you see, there's 50 wheels spinning in the background, making things work. And yeah, at the end of the day, this was a favor that somebody did for somebody else. And a $4 billion favor, it sounds, or a $3 billion favor.
And that's not even mentioning the TV deals that WWE is bringing in. What TV deals does UFC bring in? There is with ESPN?
Yeah.
We don't hear about that in the news, so it can't be too big.
Yeah. I think UFC's ceiling might be a little bit higher, but again, it's all just conjecture. Like, at the end of the day, a favor was done for somebody else. So, very interesting. Moving on, Drew McIntyre and Asuka were pulled from King and Queen of the Ring in the tournaments, both due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimate injuries.
Drew McIntyre just coming back off of injury, not 6 months ago, basically.
Just signing a new contract, finally.
Signing a new contract. That contract gets extended because he had to deal with previous injuries. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder out this guy. I mean, he's not that old. He's old, but he's not that old. And now he's just kind of limping from injury to injury, really not performing very often, just kind of yapping on the mic. I mean, I don't know. And again, Asuka, I mean, is she really a consistent worker for them? Is she the kind of person that's going to get released next?
No, she works on a weekly basis, or was.
Asuka get released?
Yeah.
I don't think she'll be released. Not anytime soon.
She needs.
I don't know when her contract's up. Obviously, they're not going to release her before her contract's up.
What do you think is the average amount of time until a wrestler deserves a break?
Every wrestler is going to be different.
I mean, well, in your opinion, 6 months, a year, 8 months.
I think you should have two or three macro storylines that run like multiple years, like Bloodline. You should have 2 or 3 of those, and then every other storyline should run basically 3 to 4 months or less.
Yeah, I'd say 3 months.
So I would say for every 3 to 4 months someone works, they should get a month off.
Well, maybe that's time for Asuka.
And you can start.
She's been going for a while.
She's been working a lot. I mean, she's been working a lot more than that. And some people
look at
can
Seth
work
Rollins.
a lot more than that. You know, some people just seem to be adverse to injury. Some people you don't use that much, so they really don't get into, like, you know, Chad Gable. Like, he never gets injured. Well, yeah, he's a wrestler, and you don't use him that much.
I think the guys that are in good shape obviously get injured. I mean, look, anything can happen. I mean, Cody Rhodes had a span where he was injured a few times. He was injured at AEW, I think, right? Then he left AEW, and the minute he showed up at WWE, got injured.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets injured.
And now he's been 2 years without injury. I mean, look at CM Punk. Hasn't wrestled at all, and he's getting injured after injury. I mean, so when you take all this time off and you're not wrestling and you come back, you're more prone to injury. And then a guy who's wrestling nonstop.
I'll say it again, too. There is something to say for what Ronda Rousey said.
I'm done listening to her. She's on it might be like trying to get publicity tour.
She did make a very interesting point, which is that when Vince was in control of the company and he was making these last second changes, you saw people getting injured unnecessarily because they didn't have a chance to rehearse.
You know, where was her statements when she was with WWE?
I mean,
she was under contract. She couldn't say
but
anything
still,
then.
I mean, there comes a point in time where it's like, you know, I don't want to hear it. You know, like Ronda. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. She is one that I thought would do well when she signed with WWE. Horrible run, and now that she's done and it ended badly, she's on this. I'm going to say whatever I can to sell. I mean, this is nothing more than, in my opinion, just publicity stunts.
Okay, but take Ronda Rousey out of it. Do you think that statement is true?
This one, probably. All her other ones that she said.
You don't think Bruce Pritchard is Vince's avatar?
Not anymore.
You think he just unhooked
if you
just unhooked his blood supply and walked away?
If he really was, would a company like TKO still have him around?
Sure they would.
No, they wouldn't. This company has backwashed everyone out that has anything to do with Vince.
You think they're clean? You think there's nobody with any association left?
I
with
think
Vince?
TKO, at the end of the day, has no problem saying that F you, we're done with you. They don't care.
Even though they employ
don't
Vince's
have the
son-in-law.
history. They don't have the history like Triple H has. They don't care. They don't know these people. They don't care. That's the problem when these big corporate companies come in and they buy it. They don't have if a company came in here and bought here, they don't have the relationship I have with Steve. They don't care. They don't care if they threw Mike out of here or they don't care. They don't have that connection. TKO doesn't have. So if there's any bad.
So let me get this straight. They're going to employ his daughter and his son-in-law.
She's unemployed.
But they're not going. Well, they must have signed some kind of a contract in order for her to appear at WrestleMania.
Appearing is one thing. Being employed is another thing.
Even if she's not going to do it for free. Even if they gave her a plane ticket to fly there, she's an employee. She's under contract. So they're going to employ they're going to employ his daughter. They're going to employ his son-in-law as the head of creative. But they're not going to leave Bruce Pritchard there because he used to be really good friends with Vince.
There's a stance here where WWE is always going to be synonymous with a McMahon. Okay, if I'm Ari, I'm saying I want the best McMahon possible to be part of this. You got to have
Shane's
that.
not available.
You got to have that. You just have you have to have that. Like WWE does well, rather kayfabe or not, with a McMahon there. Rather she's just there on a talent contract and it's simply to show your face as a on-roll authority figure or actually hold a position. It's always good to have a McMahon there. So I think at the end of the day, the only option is Stephanie McMahon, which is why do I ever think she'll come back? Maybe. I personally think she probably
did come back.
Well,
Twice.
I mean, like in some kind of manager. I really think that down the road she has the potential of becoming the next CEO. I think if Nick Khan were ever to say, I think Stephanie would jump up to CEO. I think Ari would hire Stephanie in a minute as CEO. But not to get too far off what we're talking about, I just feel like what she's saying is just she's just trying to keep her name relevant in the news and headline. And
I think two things can be true at once. You can be trying to be relevant and saying the truth.
if Bruce knew what was going on with Vince and had liability, he'd be gone.
I don't think that's what Rhonda's talking about. I don't think she's talking about, oh, Bruce Pritchard was grabbing women inappropriately and having inappropriate sexual escapades. I think she means she is a representative of the ideology that Vince. He liked all the stuff Vince did. He trained under Vince. He learned how to write and produce under Vince.
He was probably Vince's
So
right-hand guy.
He is
yeah.
Vince's. So all the bad
His
ideas.
avatar? I don't know if I go that
all
far.
the bad
He was
ideas.
when he wasn't there. Yeah.
all the bad ideas.
Well, it depends. I guess it all depends on how you word avatar.
I would not be surprised to hear, for example, if because occasionally they will make a last-minute change to the Raw lineup or the SmackDown lineup as they're going live or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised at all if most of that can be traced back to Bruce Pritchard.
And he's said it on his podcast in the past. When Vince wasn't there, he would get phone calls and text messages.
Sure.
They would go to him. They wouldn't go to Triple H or Stephanie, or they would go to Bruce, or they would go to Kevin Dunn.
Your favorite burned out wrestler, speaking of burned out wrestlers, Ric Flair back in the news again this week for an
We really
incident.
want to bring this up
For an incident that occurred. Yeah, I know. Ric Flair is your CM
Favorite.
Punk, so we have to bring him up. Ric Flair apparently caught on video at an incident at a restaurant. Supposedly what occurred was that he was asked in the bathroom to take a picture and give an autograph, and he had a very inappropriate outburst, which led to another argument, which he sounded quite inebriated on the video. I don't know if you guys have seen the video, but he sounded quite inebriated, arguing with presumably the manager or the owner over it. And basically, even after the fact, like a day or two after the video was released this week, he came out with a statement that basically said, yep, nope, I stand behind everything that I did. I didn't do anything wrong, even though I was yelling at everybody and swearing whatever. It's inappropriate to ask somebody for an autograph in the bathroom, and they needed to be told what to do. I guess the question is, does it say something that this incident occurred and, like, nobody got damaged? Everybody still feels the same way they do about Ric Flair. Everybody still feels the same way they do about Tony Khan and AEW, who he sort of still has a loose association with. No, it's like he's
Not a loose association.
He's become Black Sox. It's like you can't get him dirty. He's already too dirty to get dirty. You know what I'm saying? Like
It's a classic Ric Flair situation.
the plane ride from hell ever since then. Like
I agree with him. I hate it when fans come up to me and ask for my autograph in the bathroom. It's annoying.
I guess that depends on what they want you to sign. That's part of it. But I just thought it was interesting that, again, no one likes to see situations like that. But Ric Flair in particular having an incident like that, having it make the news, the video get released, him stand behind it and have everybody kind of be like, nah. Like, sometimes you're just so effed
that
up.
Ric Flair, he's in the news
You
again.
know, what was it, 2007 when Britney Spears shaved her head or whatever, and everybody's kind of like, yep, she's crazy, because that's who she is.
I saw another headline with Flair. He says he had a heart attack during his last match, the tag match a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He said he had a heart attack
With
during
Andrade
that match.
and who else was in that? Andrade,
Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett, I think.
Yeah. I mean, could have been. The guy's probably had so many of them that he doesn't even notice it at this point.
Doesn't feel the pain.
Yeah.
I do not know what keeps him running. Like, he's like running on momentum. Okay. So the Wyatt Six is reuniting -1. So we have a likely confirmation from Bo Dallas, Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, and Nikki Cross, 5/6. Of course, the missing 6th being the now deceased.
Well, there's still, I mean, this is a new faction. This isn't a reunion or anything, but either the 6th one is rumored to be Alexa Bliss returning, or it's going to stay open in tribute to Wyatt.
That was my thought, that this would be the angle for Alexa Bliss to come back into the story. I don't know, do we think it's a good idea or a bad idea to sort of, for lack of a better term, resurrect Bray Wyatt in this way?
A very, very dangerous topic.
It is a little dicey.
I think if I think it'll get attention. They'll give it the proper attention now. Unfortunately, it took Bray Wyatt dying for him to get his kudos, I think. I mean, I'm not going to knock it until I see it.
Yeah, I just don't hope they... Not that I think that's their purpose. I just hope they don't tarnish by mistake what Bray Wyatt put together over the years. Like, I mean, Bray Wyatt, there's not many people, and I think The Undertaker has kind of come out. When you look at talent, superstars, whatever you want to call them, that put the amount of time into their persona and their character, Undertaker comes to mind. He took it seriously. Mm-hmm. And Bray Wyatt comes to mind. He took it very seriously. Like, I'm talking I think months of planning just to figure out how they want to do. I mean, you got to make sure you're putting in that effort and that time if you're going to try to create something off of that. I just hope it doesn't, by mistake, tarnish what he's done.
I think giving it to his brother is probably the best.
Oh, it's the only option.
And bringing back Eric Rowan, he's re-signed, so that's a couple good steps right there.
I think it is the one thing I think we all can agree on is that looking at this lineup, they've made mistakes. They've definitely made mistakes with some of these.
How so?
I mean, Nikki Cross, Dexter Lumis, Eric Rowan with the spider. I mean,
that wasn't his call. That was a Vince McMahon thing.
But
all of these wrestlers are all known for being spooky, for really fitting that Bray Wyatt mold.
I do not think, you talked about Undertaker, you talked about Bray Wyatt. Those are singular points of contact, one man's vision coming to fruition in which that one man has complete control. That is not the situation here. This is not Bo Dallas's doing, and he is at the head of everything, and he's telling everybody what to do, and everybody's saying, yes, sir. This is the writer's room. This is Triple H's idea. It's going to the writer's room, and that same writer's room is the same one that created all of the mistakes that we've seen in the past of them. So that's all that I'm saying is it's one thing to have one man have a great vision and have the leadership agree with it and say, go, run with it, make it happen, make it amazing. Like Paul Heyman's whole bloodline thing. We all know that that's Paul Heyman's baby, that Paul Heyman's making that amazing. It's very clear. I don't think that's what's happening here. That's not what this is.
Again, I'm not going to knock it until I see it, but I'd like to think that Triple H will give them a bit more leeway and a bit more input into how they want to do it.
And let's remember, Bo Dallas is no Bray Wyatt.
Sure.
And quite frankly, you could argue Bo Dallas has never had a successful run in WWE.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say he's.
So to put that on him, that's. That's a pretty. It's not like Bray Wyatt's brother's coming in and he has a ton of success.
You almost kind of want to wink. You almost kind of want to wink at Bray Wyatt, but do your own thing.
Bo Dallas was successful in NXT. I mean, he's the second ever NXT champion. He had a good run there, but it was nothing like what Bray was doing.
You need to kind of wink. I think you just need to kind of wink at him and then do your own thing. And, you can maybe have a lantern or something. There's some of these subtle tributes you can make. But
I think Bo Dallas is going to be Uncle Howdy. That's what he was playing before. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll transition into something else afterwards, but I assume that's what he's going to be doing.
Well, definitely something to look forward to. All right, this one got my blood boiling when I read it, so I just had to include it in the news this week. So they're doing this whole King and Queen of the Ring tourney qualifier thing, and they pulled a bunch of the matches last second from Raw because they didn't want to overload the show.
Yeah, they had 8 matches announced for this week's Raw.
So
most ever.
Monday Night Raw, the 3-hour program with the overloaded roster, as per the now in effect draft, pulled wrestling matches from Raw because they didn't want to have too much wrestling for a tournament. As in, like, no need to build up a whole bunch of story. The tournament is the fucking story. But we can't have a story. We can't have any story.
You don't want to do it all in one night. Why not have it for 2 weeks?
I mean,
because they don't have the time.
They are doing it over multiple weeks. They're not having a whole tournament in one night. They're having round one.
But they
round
did it all
one,
one night. Maybe that takes.
Well,
maybe
the problem
they're out sending the content.
The problem is they moved those couple of matches to house shows in the same week.
So now these people are just going to appear on Raw, and it's like, how did they get here, Johnny? I don't know, because you didn't see it last week because it happened in Biloxi, Mississippi on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It comes down to the cash money.
It seems so stupid to me that they're going to take wrestling matches off of a show.
They need an hour of advertisement.
By the way,
commercials.
Who looked at this, approved it, and then got to Monday night, flew the talent in, got everybody there, and then went, nah, forget it. We're not going to have all these wrestling matches at this wrestling show.
The accounting clerk sitting at the desk.
It struck me.
We can't lose out on $2.1 million in advertising.
I'm not saying these matches have to be 20-minute barn burners. You can have a 6 or 7 or 8-minute match between two people.
Speed matches.
I mean, they don't even have to be speed matches. That would be obnoxious. But you can have a good 5 to 8 minute match between two people in the first round of a tournament. Make 1 or 2 of them a squash if you want to. I mean, if you look at the people that are in the tournament, some of these people don't belong and they need to get squashed. Fine, squash them. But you have the match. You maintain the continuity of the story. That's another complaint that I have is at the King and Queen of the Ring, the Intercontinental Championship is going to be up. Sami Zayn is going. Have you seen this? Sami Zayn's putting his title on the line at King. Okay, who's it against? Who's he going against?
I don't know. Who's he going against?
Chad Gable, who he's been feuding with, and they've added a third person to the match. Who? Who did they add to the match? Who did they add to the match?
I'm just letting you go because you're on one of those rants right now. That's why I'm not saying anything.
Bronson Reed. Why
cue that alert.
This leads to my Twitter fight because I was like,
here we go.
This is an absurdity. Why the hell is Bronson Reed in this match? I love Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed's a great talent. He should get developed. But why the hell is Bronson Reed in this match? Half the story is behind the curtain, and then everybody's like, I don't know why everyone's so mad at that. There's no story. This doesn't make any sense to me. This is entirely ridiculous. They're going to take wrestling matches off of a wrestling show because they don't have time for wrestling. But we're going to put Bronson Reed in a title match after he just loses to Johnny Gargano. Tell me why Johnny Gargano's not in that match. Why isn't Johnny Gargano in the match? He beat Bronson Reed. Why does Bronson Reed get to be in the match? Is it because WWE speed doesn't count? Because it's entirely separate out of the world, even though we held the championship on SmackDown? So it's actually been on television? It's an absurdity. The level of consistency is ridiculous. And if you want people to actually think something interesting is going to happen, you have to have it on the television.
So make your predictions right now. Who's going to win King and Queen of the Ring?
I don't know. The tournament hasn't even started yet. It's going on literally as we speak right now. I have no idea who's going to win. It's not going to matter. No one's going to care.
Do we have a full list of who's in it?
I will care.
Not for the women, no.
I don't have it in front. It'll be some nobody. This is supposed to be some stepping stone. Except Baron Corbin's won it. This used to be.
He won it.
This used to be Macho Man. Wasn't Macho Man Randy Savage? Didn't he win one of the first ones?
King
or whatever?
Macho.
Yeah, King Macho. It used to be Macho Man Randy Savage wins it and actually means something. And then I think Sheamus won it once, which was pretty good. And then
Bret Hart, Stone Cold.
Yeah, and then Baron Corbin in like 2016 or something won it.
Xavier Woods won it.
Xavier. It's not going to mean anything at all. It's going to be totally useless.
It's a way to promote a wrestler who's not going to win a title.
Yeah, except
hence Xavier Woods.
Then he goes nowhere. He can't get over.
I like Xavier Woods.
They send him down to they send him down to NXT. Then they bring him back up again. Like, it's not a sign of anything to come. It's entirely ridiculous and offline. So yeah, it's totally stupid.
There's your rant for the week.
Your rant for the week. Are you done, or you want to keep going?
No.
You're asking all these questions and you're answering them yourself. So I was just letting you go.
You can't fix stupid. But there were people actually arguing with me on the internet, trying to be like, "Oh
Shocker.
no, Bronson Reed beat Sami Zayn twice," and I'm like, 3 years ago? Like, this does. Again, like, you can't. Don't try to pretend like this is interesting. And it's the same thing here. Don't pretend like this tournament is actually interesting. Like, if you want people to think, and listen, it's an uphill battle. Like, we're still coming off the high of WrestleMania. These people just won titles. It's a hard sell. Like, AJ Styles had a ridiculously hard mountain to climb to try to make it actually look like he was going to dethrone the son of Dusty Rhodes 1 month after he won.
He never had a chance at making anyone believe that he was going to beat.
Right. He had an impossible task. So I give him credit for at least trying, and they put a little effort into it or whatever. But you can't be doing shit like this with the Intercontinental Championship and just throwing Bronson Reed in there, even though Chad Gable's been doing a lot of work on Sami Zayn, turning heel and actually developing a story, and then all of a sudden you just throw Bronson Reed in there for no reason. It's like they're going... This isn't the right kind of chaos. This isn't the kind of chaos that we want. It's just, why are they in there? I don't know. Because we can. Okay, fine. All right, last topic this week. WWE releasing some more talent out into the wild. Most of the names, crowd here is not going to know. Audience isn't going to know. Mostly next in line people. But one that I think a lot of people are going to know is Gable Steveson. Gable Steveson, excuse me. Oh, my God. What is most interesting about him, what struck me, is he's actually being looked at by several NFL teams. So he's one of the few guys.
Let him go. They pay him too much.
Yeah, he was brought in with all this fanfare. They had him out on WrestleMania or SummerSlam, one of the big shows, singing his praises, and he had one match on SmackDown, beating Barry Corbin. And
I can't help but wonder if he was a Vince McMahon hire.
That, or he just didn't take to it like they expected him to. I mean, he's been there for at least 2 years now.
Drew Gulak is out. That one made the rounds on the internet this week.
Shocker.
Yeah.
The whole Ronda
No, they
Rousey
didn't fire him. They didn't renew his contract, according to Triple H.
Well, and again, there was the Ronda Rousey controversy with the sweatpants string or whatever it was.
Stuff's coming out now that he was a bully backstage. He would intentionally hurt guys in the ring.
Yeah,
I'll tell you right now, this Gable has a pretty well background in sports.
Yeah, he's a wrestler.
He's a hell of a wrestler.
I'm looking
Olympic wrestler.
Was he
He was
a
in the
Minnesota
Olympics.
guy? I think University of Minnesota.
I don't know.
Was he part of all those Minnesota guys? Yeah, he was.
All those. He's much younger than. You're talking Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar,
No,
and
he's much younger.
Wasn't Sheldon Benjamin?
Yeah,
University
they were all
of
Minnesota, but so were the Steiner brothers. So.
Yeah, the Steiner brothers. That's what I'm saying. There's a long tradition of good wrestling in Minnesota, and he is a part of that tradition.
I thought you meant he was that generation.
No, I do not think he's that old.
Okay.
Yes, he's as old as Rick Steiner, whose son is now wrestling. Okay. Where was I? Oh, Jerry Lawler. They finally released his contract. He's come out publicly and said,
his health is...
My time is up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that it is. Speaking of which, JR's health is actually getting better.
Yep.
They took some cancer out of his hip, and it looks like he's getting better. So hopefully he's back occasionally. We can hear him. Scripps and Boa contracts.
They've already said those contracts aren't getting renewed. They're still with the company until like June or something. But yeah, they're letting a lot of guys go now that they're not doing anything with, which is probably good.
They need to cut the weight. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of it. This is coming down from TKO. This is... They want to cut the fat out. They're trying to slim down. What was it? I forget the number, but Ari came out and said, we're going to try to cut, I forget what number of millions it was, from WWE. We're going to try to slim it down. This is what's happening. If they are making it on television, and look, and on a wrestling promotion that has NXT, has SmackDown, has Raw, has Speed, has all these other entities, if these wrestlers aren't on any of those shows, gone. We don't need you. If you literally can't fill a spot in any of those shows, even for a filler to get your ass beat for 5 minutes or 2 minutes for someone else to get a bump, then gone. They go. They cut them out. They don't need them.
Yeah, I think they need to be careful with their trimming. They need to be prudent. You don't want to start cutting into muscle or
what
whatever.
are we going to do with Jerry Lawler?
I'm not being critical of them.
But everyone's online freaking out over that. I mean, he's done. I mean, what else are they going to do with him? I mean, he's been a comment. I mean, I don't know if he's worth a Legends contract. I mean, I don't know. It just
No, he's not. Well, and I guess that's what I would say is that's the sign that he really is done is he's not even healthy enough for a Legends contract. So if you can't have a guy sit there at an event and sign autographs,
but this comes to something that I've always kind of thought. I guess I've never said on the show, but there comes a point in time where just because you're a wrestler, at some point, that doesn't mean you're always entitled to a contract. I do feel like you look at like Hulk Hogan and you look at Ric Flair, and you look at Jerry Lawler, and you look at all these guys like, oh, we deserve. There comes a point in time like everyone else when you're retired, you're done. They don't want to pay you anymore.
Is Hogan on a Legends contract?
Yeah, I'm sure he's getting paid from somebody. Maybe not.
Anymore.
Maybe he's so damaged no one wants him. But like there comes a point like done.
He might be because he recorded that video for Royal Rumble.
I'm sure he has some kind of little contract with WWE.
Yeah. Could be a 1-off, 2-off per diem type thing. But I mean, I guess my point is there's always a risk when you start cutting to cut too much, and that's just something they've cut too much before. Recently, in recent memory, they cut too much. So, you want to be careful. And I think having the standard of, oh, you're not on TV right now, so we need to let you go. Well, if you're going to keep having all of these live events that supposedly they were going to stop having, then, you're going to run into some trouble when you do that. And then I guess the last little note here, Kevin Owens, his contract is going to be up in the next few months. Is there a snowball's chance in hell that he goes anywhere else? No, he's not going anywhere. He's definitely, although if they were to cut him, that would definitely be muscle. So no big shocker there. This is really brief. We'll move on to the first mid-card match here. This is a really brief story. WWE is anticipated to submit a motion for arbitration in the Janelle Grant legal case. This is basically the same thing that Vince McMahon tried to do a week or two ago. He filed to move directly.
Also did.
Yep, Laurinaitis' lawyer came out and said that they also did that. They're just trying to move to arbitration. It's just a delay tactic. I don't see it actually working. Although it is interesting to see WWE lined up next to Vince McMahon against Janelle Grant and literally like doing the exact
What's
same
Janelle
thing.
Grant looking for here? If you had to guess, you've done all the research on it. What is she looking for? Is she looking for a payday?
She was already getting paid.
No, but I mean, let's
Actually,
be honest.
she wasn't getting paid.
Oh.
I mean, I'm talking. Is
She
she
did
looking
a couple of times, right?
Yeah, once she got paid.
In
once.
your opinion, what is she looking to accomplish right now? Vince is. I mean, at this point, if you're trying to destroy Vince, that's been done. So, what's your next step now?
Assuming that everything that Janelle Grant has alleged in her lawsuit is true. Let's assume all of that is true. I would say, if I was in Janelle Grant's shoes, I would probably say that I want Vince's name destroyed.
Done.
I want financial recompense. I don't want to work for the rest of my life, which could be done through arbitration. And I would say I want to dredge up any other incidences that may have happened for other women, maybe situations similar to mine, so that they can get their comeuppance as well, and that we can seek some kind of justice, in quotes.
If I had to guess,
that's what that would be my goal of starting a lawsuit.
If I had to guess, I would say her number one was to destroy Vince. That's been done. So her number two now is and I don't say payday to be rude. I'm just saying she does, like you said, she doesn't want to work again. So to achieve that, you go to arbitration and you settle on an amount.
Well,
it's a whopping amount. I mean, you're not going to get. I mean,
this is where things get interesting because you're right. Goal 2 and goal 3 can, and this is why they want to move to arbitration. In arbitration, goal 2 and goal 3 are working against each other. It becomes this tug of war between get more people involved, raise awareness, achieve justice for the maximum number of people, and achieve the maximum amount of justice for me. Because you can really string this out.
That's where you're going to find out where this grant really lies.
But I don't think it's going to go to arbitration. I really don't. It wouldn't. I would love to read. I can't wait to read the legal justification for making it go to arbitration.
But what's the argument in court?
The whole point of arbitration, basically, this is what Vince said when he filed. He said, we need to go to arbitration because the agreement that she signed says if we have a disagreement, we will go to arbitration. So let's go to arbitration. And Janelle Grant's whole case is the only reason why we're here right now is because you did not adhere to your terms, your responsibilities underneath the agreement. If you had paid me the $1 million when you owed me in February of last year, we wouldn't be here right now. So you broke the agreement. Therefore, the agreement is void for a whole series of reasons. Only the most pertinent of which is that he didn't pay. There's a whole bunch of other legal explanations that they give for it on top of the fact. But they're saying the NDA is null and void. So for a judge to come out and go, yeah, Vince, you didn't adhere to your part of the agreement, but we're going to hold her accountable to her part of the agreement, and we're going to make you go to arbitration, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
A couple things I want to say on this. And I don't want this to be misconstrued in any type of way.
It will be.
I'm sure it will be. Well, here's the thing.
So be very careful.
I have an opinion, as everyone has opinions set by their lifestyle. And as a business owner, I look at things differently, not as people may look at things differently in their other perspective. What Vince did, he should 100% get what he got. Fired, let go, destroyed. Absolutely. I believe what she said. I think she is probably pretty well accurate in what she's saying. I believe what she said. I don't think, though, that him paying her $1 million in February would have meant that this wouldn't be here now. Sorry, I don't believe that. I think this would have been brought up at some point, whether he paid her or didn't pay her. So if I'm her and going through all this, she's probably looking for the best deal possible. I don't think she's necessarily looking to draw out 30 other women that had this issue. As you said, when you start playing with in arbitration, we can get the best deal for me, or continuing this to court, I can help get the best deal and a better package for everybody. I don't think she's going to do that. I think she's going to go to arbitration. I think that's where it's probably going to end up, and there's going to be a whopping settlement for her that you'll never know of. It'll be in a disclosed amount that is sealed. In my opinion, this is going to come out one way or another. I don't think him not paying her $1 million would have been, well, we would have never heard about this. Sorry, don't believe that. Okay, I think there comes a point in time where I do believe that all this was going on, and she never said anything. I've told you from the beginning I didn't like that part, that she went through what she went through and never said a word to anyone about it. I mean, she was
if it goes to trial, we'll find out.
She was getting a lot at the time. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not like, she was getting a lot of money and a lot of power within the company and taking advantage of it for a long time. And because there was a falling out, that's why we're here now. So, I mean, that's the type of situation you got to look at, where I believe everything she's saying. I believe 100% that's what Vince did. It's disgusting, and he tarnished his name, and he tarnished WWE, and he got exactly what he deserved, which is tossed out, and everybody, including myself, is happy for that. I think WWE is going to prosper 10 times more than if it had Vince still attached to it. I just think these two together are causing this issue, and I think nothing was said before because she was getting a lot at the time. Vince was paying her a pretty good amount, and she was getting a lot of benefits at the time when she was at the company with Vince. Promotions after promotions, climbing up the ladder, even though she wasn't really in charge of anything, but she was getting these power titles. Like, she was, and she wasn't saying anything then, and now she is. And I don't think him not paying her $1 million in February would have meant this wouldn't be here now. We would have been here now regardless, I think, in my opinion.
Why did she wait as long? And why did
I don't know.
Wait
it's a good question. I don't know.
Well, I have an explanation for that.
She probably was from lawyers. They're probably planning it all out. They're probably, hey, let's set this up. Let's make sure we get all of our. You saw the information that they provided. That's a lot of planning. That's a lot of confirming text messages and emails, and you get your shit ready first before you release it and go public. And I bet you that's what took so long.
But if he kept paying her like he was supposed to, she would legally couldn't have said anything because of the NDA, right?
Yes.
She still said something.
When he stopped paying her.
That's my theory. They had he kept paying her, she would have been bound to the terms of the NDA because she was experiencing the benefits of it.
And if she said anything, he would have sued her.
And it wasn't until he didn't pay her that she went, well, now there's no reason for me to keep quiet because he's broken the terms of the agreement. So I'm going to break the terms of the agreement, and I'm going to let my leverage go. And my leverage is, you're a shithead. And everybody knows it, and here's proof that it happened. So you never give away all your evidence. I'm sure there's some things in there some probably very disturbing things in there that we haven't been able to see yet. But I think there's a very clear explanation for why, and I think it backs up my theory, which is that, had he just paid the $1 million, for whatever reason he didn't and WWE didn't, it would seem to me like, and maybe this loops back around a little bit to the TKO deal, why was this deal made? It seems to me WWE was pretty cash-strapped. They had to agree, in order for WWE to sign off on the deal with her, he couldn't just give her $3 million. He had to get her to agree to take three $1 million payments because they didn't have the cash to pay her $3 million.
I don't think WWE was cash-strapped. I think Vince was cash-strapped.
No, that's where the money was coming from. WWE was named as a co-defendant, which is why they're making this file now, because the money was coming from WWE. The agreement, the non-disclosure agreement, has WWE on it. It's not just between her and Vince.
I think one large $3 million payment would be seen. I think breaking it into $1 million makes it a little bit more easier to disguise.
Probably has more to do with the approval structure. Maybe you don't need to go to the board for $1 million or less. But still, it's if WWE is cash strapped, that's a reason to make a deal with TKO.
The reality is this whole situation just smells. I think that's what it comes down to. It just smells. It sounds like two people who had an arrangement that backfired, and now they're just going after each other. And I don't know. It just seems like it's a situation that I think everyone is ready to just wash their hands of and get away from it.
Yeah, nobody here is clearly innocent or guilty. It's, who you think is more guiltier, I guess, at the end of the day. Oh, well. So that's what that is. We'll see what a judge decides. But again, I will be shocked if a judge goes, no, go. You need to go to arbitration first, even though he stiffed you for $1 million like he said he would. I don't think that's going to happen. Otherwise, a judge could have ruled the exact opposite way. She could have come out and spread all this truth, and then a judge would just go, well, you have to go to arbitration. You don't actually have to pay him back all the money that he's given you, the $3 million that you've probably spent by now. You just have to go to arbitration now. Of course, that would never happen. A judge would immediately rule in Vince McMahon's favor if that was the case. So I don't see it happening the other way.
Well, from a former owner to a current owner, AEW, a little chaos going on over there with Tony Khan.
Your new favorite show.
Storyline injured, out. Can't fly. Can't leave Jacksonville because of his injuries.
His videos are so corny. They're so corny.
Okay, so there's a couple.
Hey guys, I'd love to be with you tonight, but I can't.
So this is where. Okay, I'm taking the real Vince, put it over there. We're going to take the storyline, the character Vince. This is where Vince played it well back in the day. When he was hurt, he was just gone. Like, Tony's playing, like, he's trying to sell it too much. And
Vince would show up in a neck brace.
He would show
No,
up
I'm not talking about that.
in the hospital.
But if you watch some of his interviews, they're pretty bad. Where he goes, oh, yeah, my doctor's telling me I can't fly. I can't leave Jacksonville. I'm stuck here. I'm like, come on. If you want to leave Jacksonville, you're leaving See, he's saying, Tony Khan is saying too much. It's actually ruining a little bit of the good I think they've done with the storyline.
They just had a show.
Stop talking.
They just had a show in Jacksonville that he wasn't at. So don't tell me it's because you can't fly.
No, that was when he got attacked.
I'll be honest with you.
Oh, right. You're right. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. This storyline I like. It's up my alley. I liked everything about it. But I'm really starting to see, watching the beginning of it, that Tony Khan really just doesn't know how to sell some stories. And this is what, like, if you go, they're cringe. If you go and you watch some of these interviews he did in the neck brace and he's laughing, yeah, man, I can't, I have my doctor say, and he's laughing when he said, he's not even selling it. Like, all my doctors say I can't leave Jacksonville. I'm just too injured. I don't know who's running the show tonight, but you're going to have to tune in to find out. Like, stop. Like, just play the injured card, stop talking, let the Young Bucks come in. They're doing a great job of it. Play the heel and leave the show in chaos. Like, he's trying to sell it too much. That's the only negative of what I've seen so far. However, on the show, it's just all chaos. It reminds me of the McMahon-Helmsley faction when Triple H took over when Vince was out, and he was a wrestler running the show, and he was bossing around all these other wrestlers and telling them, cutting into their promos and putting two guys up against each other they're causing the chaos. And I've always said it, chaos, controversy.
I'm sure the Bucks are using that as inspiration.
And they actually have some power. They are actually executive vice presidents. Whether that wields any real power or not, I don't know. But they have the titles at least to walk around. And And I think it's really adding some interesting storyline. The only negative is Tony Khan needs to shut up, pretend like he's injured, stay out of the way, don't do interviews, don't sell it, just be gone. Being gone shows that you're injured and not there, and you're not. Just be gone, and let the Young Bucks take the lead. And I don't. You watch it. I'm more watching the clips. You're probably watching the whole show. Mm-hmm. And I went through and I watched like 15 clips today of Dynamite last night, and I mean, Daniel Bryanson came back. He looked like he's going up against the Young Bucks now and trying to be that faction against them. What?
Daniel Bryanson?
I always say it wrong. Whatever. I don't care.
I got to correct both of you guys with these
I
names.
say it on purpose to be wrong.
Uh-huh.
I don't give them the credit. I don't care. It's a stupid name. Just leave it the way it was. But the reality is, this is the type of content that AEW has needed to see. Now, I know it's not a drastic increase, but we are seeing some increase in the ratings. Maybe only 10, 12,000, 20,000 a night, but we were in the low or high sixes. We're kind of making it into the 700s, trying to make it back
trying
up
to get back up to 8.
But this is the stuff that needs to happen for that. You know, you look at let's recap here. Let's go back to 2000, 2001 when WCW was beating WWF every night. And then just
a little before then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
97.
No. It was like 2000. I think it was still happening. 99.
No.
Are you sure?
Positive.
They were bankrupt in 01.
It was 97 where they were beating WWF. And
yeah,
then
83 weeks was 97 and
98. Early 99.
Well, I thought it went into a little bit more of the 99, 2000. Okay.
Nope.
Either way, but when this type of stuff started to form, you saw how quickly the attention spans change, and people like, this is stuff that's getting me interested in watching at least the clips of AEW. I haven't watched the full shows, but it's getting me watching highlights. You know, that's the type of story they need to start putting in.
There is a level of intensity going up on the show in general, with the best friends breaking up and having that parking lot brawl. Obviously, the Cope Open, there's been a lot of blood with that. The match with Brody King last night, obviously. Buckets of blood from Brody King. Holy crap.
Yeah.
There is an edginess that's coming over the show at this point. Although
even Willow and Sky Blue had a hardcore match.
That was a good match.
Sky was bleeding, yeah.
Yeah, Willow had a really good match. One thing, though, is I wonder... kind of making Kenny Omega look kind of lame with his big announcements. Is he becoming the new lame version of Tony Khan with his big announcements?
He obviously can't wrestle, but they're trying to get him in the show because they are still lacking star power.
I feel like they could do something fun with him. I feel like he's got such potential, and they're not really using him.
Well, he got beat down last week.
Where is Britt Baker?
She's on the injured list.
She's still on the injured list?
Mm-hmm.
We still haven't seen... I mean, we've had all these big signings, all these great matches. Still have not seen MJF.
Nope.
No sign, no whisper of MJF at all. MJF versus Adam Copeland. We know that's coming. That ought to be interesting. And obviously all the work that needs to be done with Adam Cole and whatnot. The other Adam. Yeah, I mean, it's good stuff. We need to see more of it, and we need to keep seeing Rampage piggybacking.
Yeah, that's really been helping
off of
Rampage.
One of the shows that we need to keep doing. There is a 3-hour show somewhere in there. I don't know what night it is or how it works, but there's a 3-hour show in there somewhere.
What was the ratings for Rampage last week? It piggybacked off Dynamite. It was like 460 something.
Yeah, and about half the audience hung, a little more than half the audience hung around. Which again, Friday night from 10 to 11. Oh my gosh, could there be a worse slot? So
I was wrong, and I looked it up. April 13th, 1998 is the first when WWE started beating WCW.
Yep.
4.6 against 4.35.
Yeah.
And it just like skyrocketed. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, I wonder what the storyline at that point was that made it that week just hit it, because like at that point on, like WWF's ratings just like they went up by.
If you're interested in this, there is a YouTube channel. Oh, who is it? Wrestling with Regret or Wrestling Through Time? Who is it that is doing he literally has 83 episodes where every episode he goes through, okay, week number 1 of the Monday Night Wars. This is what happened on each show. This is how the ratings played out. And you can literally watch as the stories for each one. It's very interesting.
And there's like 5 weeks. in September where Nitro kind of comes back a little bit, but then WWE Raw just destroys them after that.
Yeah,
just destroys them.
Well, that was around the time. Let's see, was that around the time they broke the streak? They broke Goldberg's streak.
That was end of 98 or 97. No, 98. Yeah, end of 98.
Yeah.
So I was wrong. 1998 for that. So yeah, you guys were right.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's funny how that switched.
The Goldberg streak had run its course at that point. He was probably 120-0 or whatever it was.
170 something.
It ended at 170, but by the time it flipped to WWF, I'm saying. By the time WWF took over, it was 6 months
you
before
said it
then.
was middle of 98?
April 15th, 12th.
All right, yeah, end of 98, sorry. Okay.
So
I'm
Goldberg was
confused.
probably over 100-0 at that point. He had been wrestling twice a week, 3 times a week, every week, and in every pay-per-view.
He hadn't even won the title yet, actually. That was July of 98 when
Correct.
he won the title.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
the guy went 150 times before they gave him the belt.
Yeah.
So I just think with AEW, to close out this topic, I think if nothing's worked, sometimes it's a good spot to be in. If nothing is working and your ratings are hitting bad, try new stuff that you never know what could explode. And all of a sudden now you're just climbing. That's what they
adapt or die.
If you're in a spot where you're leading, you don't want to change anything. Like WWE doesn't want to change anything because it's working. But when you're AEW or WWE and there's no desire to change it because it's working. When you're AEW and you have to find something to change, that's where things can click together. And I think that's what they're trying right now. Trying some new stuff, adding some storylines in. Be interested to see where it goes. It'd be interesting if they draw this storyline out. Or in 2 weeks, Tony Khan's back and they just ruin the whole thing, which wouldn't surprise me either. Tony Khan, I'm not a big Tony Khan fan. All right, main event for tonight's episode: Saudi Arabia Eyes hosting some major WWE events. We're talking like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. I mean, they've done some events before. I think they're aiming right now. They do 2 a year. They
one
do one
or
in the
two,
spring,
yeah.
one in the fall.
2 a year, yeah.
They've generated, I'm going to say, roughly 50 to 60,000, 70,000 fans. It seems like some of the arenas that I've seen, they look pretty small. But you guys told me before, they're 65,000 people.
Yeah, big soccer arenas.
So, I mean, drawing the attention-wise and drawing consumers to the event, I don't think is an issue. I think they're gonna fill the arena, the stadium. I just feel like it's gonna lose that feel.
I think it already lost. I said that at this past WrestleMania. I don't think WrestleMania is what it used to be.
Right.
They make all of their shows big and spectacular and
Yeah.
fireworks. All the Saudi shows look exactly the same as WrestleMania now. I don't think people are going to be traveling from the U.S. to Saudi.
Oh, well, that's what I mean by I don't know how to put the word on it, and we were talking about this before the show. It's just like let's say right now WrestleMania 41 Saudi Arabia comes up. It just doesn't have as we get closer to it. Oh yeah, it's in Saudi. They're just not. And when it goes live, it's kind of has a different feel to it. It's just not. It's not. I don't know. It doesn't feel like the WrestleMania.
It doesn't feel like you're the audience anymore.
That part of that too, yeah.
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, the reality is finally hitting us, but it's been the truth. Guys, I've been saying it since we started this show 56 weeks ago. I mean, this is the truth. We are not the target audience anymore. India is the target audience. Europe is the target audience. Australia is the target. This is a global phenomenon. Triple H has a vision for a global phenomenon. It's going to take over the globe. And there's going to be global development programs. People are even talking about them hosting a show in Japan. That's been like whispers of that across the... Could you imagine WWE in Japan?
Beast in the East. They did that several years ago.
Trying to break into that market, that Loctite market that nobody can seem to get into.
He's always wanted NXT Japan.
He's always wanted to go to Japan and have a real presence in there. We are not the audience anymore, guys. Get used to it. Get used to waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch your premium live
That's
events.
why we have AEW.
Get used to it, guys. Get used to it.
I think it's a
the
bad
future.
idea. I think WrestleMania should be, you keep WrestleMania with its roots but I mean I get what you're saying. WWE's becoming a worldwide.
They are taking the American audience for granted.
I mean, think about. I'm trying to pay attention to all the shows now, more attention. Think about Backlash this past weekend. it, other than the size of the arena, it didn't look much different than, say, Royal Rumble earlier this year. I mean, they're making all of their shows so cookie cutter, and they're trying to make them all big events that they can't make WrestleMania any bigger than they already have.
What makes
They're all gonna
WrestleMania
look the
big?
same.
WrestleMania has become Jupiter, and now it has 1,000 satellites circling it. So now you have WrestleMania Week, and you have the WrestleMania Expo, and you have WrestleMania World, and all these other things that gets become a destination event, almost like a con or something like that you go to. It's like WrestleCon or something like that, where you travel to it, you spend a whole week inside the city, cities are bidding for it, and so yeah, this whole no one's going to go to. First of all, a lot of people are going to go to Saudi Arabia for a show like WrestleMania. Will they go for the Rumble? No, okay, a lot less are going to. But if it's a whole big once-in-a-lifetime thing, here's the other thing. You hold a show like WrestleMania in Philadelphia, okay? And you are a 3-hour plane ride from, let's say, 500 million people. Between that side of Canada, maybe all the way to Mexico. Let's go all the way to Mexico. You're a 3-hour plane ride, 4-hour plane ride from about 500 million people. You hold that in the Middle East, you're a 3-hour plane ride from like 2 billion people. You got people that can fly there from India. You got people from Europe. You got people from Northwestern Africa. You've got people from all over the place can fly there in 3 hours. So way bigger. So yeah, we aren't going to be able to get there in 3 hours, but when you're a global company trying to create a global presence, and WrestleMania is a week-long event with multiple shows. NXT is going to have a show. SmackDown's going to be there. Maybe Raw's going to be there. The 2 WrestleMania shows. It almost gets to be too big for one American city, which essentially operates like an island in and of itself. Because we're 8 hours away from any other frickin' continent. An 8-hour flight away from any other continent. So
right. I think what sells WrestleMania is the name WrestleMania. I mean, it's WrestleMania.
At this point, yeah.
I mean, that's the difference, I think. When you're talking, the venues all look the same. It's WrestleMania.
Everybody's going to want to be the first. So there's going to be a lot of... When they come out, when the board comes out and says, we will be holding WrestleMania outside of North America, the bidding's going to start, and it's going to be crazy. People are going to be throwing everything. I can't wait to see what those numbers are, because people are going to be throwing a lot of money at them because everybody wants to be the first. And a lot of people have money. So,
it's the truth.
How long before China? NBA's already breaking into China.
Any location.
So, and by the way, everybody's going. The National Football League has been obviously doing games in England. Well, there's a reach
just for global market now. I mean, people want a global
Right, the world is shrinking. So, this is all part of it, unfortunately.
WWB is a global company, partner, business, whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't shock me that they would look into this. I just don't think it's a wise.
I don't think we're going to see green shirt guy in the front row at that show.
I don't know. They may pay just to keep that guy there.
I'll bet you we do.
I bet you they pay him just to keep him there, to make sure they have some. They don't get any.
You need to find him and you need to interview him. I want to know what's going on with that guy.
But all right, guys, this has been episode 56. Wrestling with a Business podcast. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Comment below. Let us know what you think about TKO's earnings or the discussion on Saudi Arabia. Would you go to Saudi Arabia to watch WrestleMania or Royal Rumble? I'm giving it a thumbs down. But let us know in the comments down below. In the meantime, check us out, WWB Gauntlet, throughout the week, and we'll see you next Friday right here on Wrestling with a Business. Until then, adios.